going to factor these, and the first thing I notice is that they are trinomials and they are not perfect squares in the beginning and the end. 15 and 6 are not perfect squares. So that means I have to use what we call the AC method of factoring. So here's what you do. You take the first and the last and multiply them. So 15 times 6 is equal to 90. Now I want the factors of 90, so I start dividing. 90 divided by 1 is 90. 90 divided by 2 is 45. 90 divided by 3 is 30. 4 doesn't work. 5. 90 divided by 5 is 18. 90 divided by 6 is 15. 7 doesn't work. 8 doesn't work. 90 divided by 9 is 10. And we've already got 10. So once you start repeating, you're done doing your division. Now we want to pay attention to this sign here because it tells us what we're doing. So we want the factors of 90 that when we add them equal 19. So 9 and 10. Because when I add 9 plus 10, I get 19. So here we always want to do biggest first, and I'll explain that in a second. So you're going to bring down the first term and the sign after it. Now we're going to split this up, this 19z, with the 9 and the 10. So you want the biggest first, a 10z. So we have 10z, but we want 19z, so this 9 has to be positive because those two that you use to split up have to add up to the one above it. Then you bring down the next term, so plus 6. I'm going to put parentheses around the first two terms only. 15 and 10, I can divide those by 5, and they each have a z in common. So let's go ahead and do that. 15 divided by 5 is 3. I have two z's. I took one out, so that's one left, plus sign. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and I have a z here, but I took it out, so that's the end of that. You bring down the sign that's after the parentheses. Now, here's the situation. I don't make parentheses around the next two. I just look at the numbers, and I don't worry about the sign. So I'm just looking at 9 and 6, and I say, what's the biggest number I can divide those by? Well, the biggest number I can divide those by is 3. So now I'm going to write down what's in the parentheses. And then everything that's not in parentheses, they have to go together. So 5z plus 3, and I'm finished. That is factored. So again, here's what I did. First times last. And sometimes you do need a little calculator to help you out on this. So 16 times 15 is 240. Wait a minute, I don't know what that was. One of the factors of 240 that when I subtract them equal 8. So I'm going to start dividing. So 240 divided by 1 is 240. 240 divided by 2 is 120. 240 divided by 3 is 80. 240 divided by 4 is 60. 240 divided by 5 is 48. We need to subtract to get 8. We're still not there. 240 divided by 6 is 40. 240 divided by 7 does not work. 240 divided by 8 is 30. You got to keep going until you find it. 240 divided by 9 doesn't work. 240 divided by 10 is 24. When you subtract those, you get 14. We're getting closer. 240 divided by 11 does not work. 240 divided by 12 is 20. 20 take away 12 is 8. That's it right there. Okay, so you bring down the first term and the sign after it, 16y squared minus, you want the biggest factor that works, 20, and you put your letter with that. So I have a negative 20y and I need a negative 8, so that 12 has to be positive because those two have to add up to the ones above it. Bring down the next term. Put parentheses around the first two numbers, 16 and 20, I can divide those by 4, and I have a y. 16 divided by 4 is 4. I have two y's. I took one out, so that's one left, minus 20 divided by 4 is 5, and I took the y out. Bring the sign down after your parentheses. Look at these last two numbers, but don't look at the signs here, just look at the numbers, 12 and 15. I can divide those by 3. So now I write down what's in the parentheses and what's outside of the parentheses. They go together, and I'm done. First times last. 6 times 10 equals 60. I want to add to get 23. So 60 divided by 1 is 60. 60 divided by 2 is 30. 60 divided by 3 is 20. When I add those, I get 23. So that's the right combination. As soon as you find it, you can stop dividing. Bring down the first term and the sign after it. Biggest number first. I have a negative 20y. I want a negative 23y, so that 3 has to be negative because those have to add up to the one above it that you just split up. Bring down the last term. Put parentheses around the first two terms. I can divide 6 and 20 by 2, and I have a y. 6 divided by 2 is 3. I have two y's. I took one out, so that's one left, minus 20 divided by 2 is 10, and I took the y out. Bring down the sign after your parentheses. Now these two numbers, 3 and 10, they don't have anything in common, so you've got to put a 1, because technically you can divide by 1. So I put what's in the parentheses, I put what's not in the parentheses, and I have my answer.